like to call this meeting to order, please. Thank everybody for coming this evening. Lincoln County Board of Education meeting in regular session for a business session, although we do have a couple of people who want to speak to us tonight. What I'd like first to ask everybody if you join the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Mr. McAllister, would you lead? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Many of you know our procedures. I try to state them at every meeting just for those that don't, but as the open meeting law requires items to be on the board agenda in advance, and we all receive them as through the local media and all. Anyone who comes before the board to speak with us to make public comments are certainly free to do that. Just need to sign up ahead of time, and you may do that. The only drawback to it is we can't really converse with you. We can listen to you and make our own notes, whatever, but we really can't converse as far as, but we're certainly willing to listen to anybody who'd like to sign in. And we have one person signing in tonight, and that's Jonathan Taggart with FFA, and I think Jonathan's familiar with that role.
I'm very familiar. I came tonight to update the board on the status of the FFA building. If you haven't driven behind the school, it is up. It's constructed except for the two indoors. And I'm happy and pleased to announce the principal at the high school. I think some of the other administrators are pleased with how it looks. And we have started the education process of the construction. I've made contact with Dana today, the graphics design teacher, the welding shop teacher, and also the electrical shop teacher at the high school, and all three of those vocational programs will be assisting at different points in this. The electrical shop teacher is going to have his students install the majority of what they would install according to their curriculum. The welding teacher is going to do the same stuff with things that we might need, such as cages inside for putting in any secure materials or anything like that. My plan is before the first year that building will be secure and ready to move equipment in and lock that down. Probably after the first year I'll get a hold of Brenda and actually come before the board so I can ask any questions that you all might have and can answer them at that time on a schedule when the kids would participate and how that process would go. But as of right now, we're right on track. My broken arm kind of set us back a little bit, but we're moving forward, and it looks like the high school vocational programs are right on board with us. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. We appreciate you. Appreciate what you do, and look forward to hear more from you. But many of us have noticed that we've driven around back there, that the building is there. Let me, I forgot to have the minutes of the December 12th, 2013 regular meeting approved. Can I have a motion for that, please? Mr. Curry?
Second.
Mr. Wilkerson, is that all yes vote?
Yes.
Okay, all yes on that, sorry. Okay, presentations. First, we have Sarah Murray and Dr. Sean Loudon, Cabell Huntington Hospital, Infant Drug Addictions.
Well, Dr. Loudon can't be here tonight. He had to go to his son's Christmas party at school. So
You have to have priorities. Don't you?
that's right. But Dr.
You're
Loudon and I
you're
work
Sarah
close.
Murray?
I'm Sarah Murray, and I'm the clinical coordinator in the neonatal therapeutic unit at Cabell Huntington Hospital. And also, when Lily's Place opens, I'll be director over there. Let me give you a little bit of background to where we've been and where we are and what we're seeing in our state. First off, about 2 years ago, we were seeing, I'm a neonatal intensive care nurse originally by trade, and we were seeing that in our 36-bed NICU, over 2/3 of our beds were being taken by babies experiencing neonatal abstinence syndrome, which is a group of symptoms caused by prenatal exposure to mostly opiates and other drugs that their mothers took in various different ways. On any given day, 25 to 28 of our 36 beds were taken up by these babies. So I started doing a little bit of research, and I found out that nationwide, about 5 years ago, the average was about 2.7 per 1,000 births in the United States, babies exposed to mostly opiates. In 2011, when I started looking at this, it had gone up in just a few years to over 5%. So I thought, wonder what it is here at Cabell. And so I did some research. That's the great thing about the computer world. You have research at your fingertips. And 2 years ago at Cabell Huntington Hospital, we were 68 per 1,000 births being exposed. And that's more than, if anybody's a math teacher, that's a lot more than 10 times what our national average is. In 2012, we went up to 128 per 1,000 births, and the national average is holding steady at about 5 to 5.5. To date, 2013, we are at 178 per 1,000 births at Cabell Huntington Hospital alone, and these are babies only born at Cabell Huntington. It doesn't count the babies born at Charleston, Williamson, because we're unable to take those babies because we have no beds. A year ago in July, we opened up the neonatal therapeutic unit to try to get these babies better care. They're very difficult to care for. They cry all the time, they shake, they have excoriating diarrhea because, I don't know if you know this, but I've learned a lot in the past year that when they make meth, they use Drano a lot of times, and I don't know what would make someone think it's okay to ingest Drano or shoot Drano up, but they do. And so that affects their baby and the gastrointestinal system. So these babies are pretty much miserable. I call it, if you ever had a colicky baby in your family that cried a lot, this is colic on steroids, is what I tell them. So we've opened up the unit, and we opened up a 12-bed unit. Today we had 18 babies in our 12-bed unit, 6 in the NICU waiting for a bed, and 4 in the Wellborn Nursery waiting for a bed. So last week we had 32 babies in the building, only born at Cabell Huntington Hospital. So we're only being able to service the babies immediately born at Cabell, nobody else. We get calls all the time, so these outlying hospitals are really struggling with what to do with these babies. They don't have a place for it. Keep taking care of these babies, I've also learned a lot about the moms and what happened to them and why they're on drugs. And I found out that it's no respecter of persons. It doesn't matter if your mother's a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, or a prostitute. All of our children are at risk. We are in for the battle of our lives right now, for the minds of our children. And I wish I had great answers for you. I talked to Dr. Loudon today. I said, what are you seeing in the clinics as these kids are getting older? And babies, up until about the age of preschool, they do well. Put them in preschool and they become labeled because most of them come from homes that aren't the best, the ones that cause the most trouble. These babies, if they go into nurturing homes, do well. If they go in, most of the children that go into a stable environment and are adopted into a stable home, they do very well. You cannot tell them from the other children in the population right now. That's preschool. There are no numbers really. We've just started looking at these numbers recently, so there are no hard, fast numbers to gauge where these children, you probably know better than the government what these children are doing. But we in West Virginia, by talking to the moms, I found out that we are generational addicts for the most part. Their parents are addicts, their grandparents. I had a dad tell me a few weeks ago he started running drugs for his grandfather when he was 10 years old, and he was from Boone County, West Virginia. And that's all he knew. That is absolutely all he knew to do, was run drugs, do drugs, and survive to get drugs. And it takes over their mind. I had a young mother who was a heroin addict say, I'm 26 years old. I met this guy, I hear that a lot, and I started using drugs when I was 20, and I'm tired. And I said, whatever makes you, beautiful young girl from up in the northern part of the state, And I said, what could ever make you want to shoot up heroin? Why would you do that? And she said, it controls your every aspect of your life. You will sacrifice your family, yourself, and everything for the drug. She said, many times in the middle of the night, I've gotten up, and she lives in Huntington now, she's a prostitute. I got up, leave my 2 children asleep in bed. I go out, have someone, she's afraid to shoot herself up, but she said 24/7 on the streets of Huntington, she can get someone to shoot heroin into her arm. She gets the heroin shot into her arm, and she goes back home to her children. And that's what we're dealing with. It's a sad, sad day. But I do think there's hope. We are working with these moms. When Lily's Place opens, we will have counseling for them in the building with where their babies are. And it's very important to these mothers to keep their babies. That's their #1 fear, is we're going to take their baby away. And usually what I tell them is, the only person that can make your baby be taken away is you. But the craving of the drug just must be horrific. I mean, I know if I don't have caffeine in the day, I get a headache. And I can't imagine what it's like to crave a drug like heroin or an opiate that you ingest. I just can't imagine. But they tell me it's pretty horrific. And I've had a couple of moms want to quit cold turkey to see what their baby's going through, and have had them curled up in the floor in a fetal position in agony. So I don't recommend that to any of them. I just got back from Dayton, Ohio. I went up there to speak to, it was actually a church group. But I talked to them about hope. And these kids have no hope. That's how their life is viewed. There's no hope. Their mom's an addict. Their brothers and sisters are addicts. Their grandfather's an addict. That's all they ever know. But what can we do in the school system? Can we offer them hope? I talked about some situations. Every young girl that, usually if a girl comes to me and she's in a program and she wants to stay in a program, and I know in her community someone who goes to a church there, I try to send her to them and say, nurture this girl. And you would think every church would open their doors to them, but they don't. But every girl that we've had that has had someone to mentor her and to pay attention to her and help her through those times when she's craving have been successful in their treatment. The ones that we send back home to live with their mother, who may be a school board member, a nurse, that have no nurturing and nobody who really will just be honest with them and help them through this, they're 100% not successful. So I was talking about this, and this young man came up to me after the service, and he just said, I just want to tell you something. He said, I never could figure out my life until today. Why? My father and my mother were drug addicts. They both died of overdoses. My brother is in prison for life for murder, drug-related. My sister is doing 20 years to life for murder. And what made the difference in my life? And he said, but when you were talking today about hope, when I was 8 years old, my parents had been out all night and left us home alone, and they both came in and crashed, and we hadn't had dinner, and we hadn't had breakfast. And it was on a Sunday morning, and I was going door to door to try to get someone to give me something to eat, and a bus pulled up. And the door opened, and a bunch of kids got on, and so did I. And that bus took him to a church, and he went in, and he told them, my parents are drug addicts. I haven't had breakfast, and I haven't had dinner. So they fed him, and they took him home. And they came back the next Sunday and picked him up. And in that church, some family who had a little boy his age saw hope in him and gave him hope. For 10 years, they took care of him. They bought him a suit to graduate high school in. They fed him. When he called them and said, my parents are both stoned and I'm afraid, they went and got him and took him into their home. And he said, you know, today when you were talking, I know why I'm different than my brother and sister. They didn't get on the bus, and they didn't go with me. And they never had hope because nobody cared about them like that family cared about me. He's now a young attorney. He was holding a newborn baby in his arms, and he said, you know, I have no family. My family's either dead or in prison. I have no hope of seeing my sister for probably 15 years, and never my brother. He'll never be out of jail. He got no mercy. And he said, but now I'm making my own family. And it's simply because someone gave me hope. And so that's what, as teachers, and churches and communities have to not label these children when they come barreling into kindergarten out of control because nobody in their home is chaotic and no one can discipline them. If we just say, he has attention deficit and he needs medication, then you know what we're doing? We're perpetuating that drug abuse because what they give them is Adderall, and many of our mothers are Adderall addicts. And so we've got to be careful what we do with these children. If I ordered some material to try, a lot of my parents don't have good education and they don't read well. So I ordered some material from the National Association on Drug Abuse or something. It was free. And when I got it, I took the 8th grade out, but they said, this is for prevention. And if you wait till 8th grade, it's too late. Because most of them have, especially if they're in these homes, most of them have these patterns already set in their life. And so I use it a little bit with some of them, but most of them are way into drugs, before I get them. So I brought it for you. I'm going to leave it with you. It's a great tool. What I have starts in 2nd and 3rd grade. You can get it free from your tax dollars at work. Magazines and things telling them about what drugs do to their brains. And it's very educational. The pamphlets that I've got, I kept a lot of them because I am using those with some of my parents because some of them now, pills are so hard to get, they're switching back to heroin. We've had more heroin deaths in Huntington in the last month. Last month we had 5 babies in West Virginia die at the hands of their parents, and it was drug related. One of those babies was one of ours. It didn't come to us because we never had a bed for it. It went home from the NICU. But it was one of our babies, a beautiful little girl. And now she's dead. And it was directly related to drugs. 2 of, not our babies, but they were at CAMC, were horribly abused by their father because the mother was a drug addict. He had his own drug issues, and he couldn't cope. They gave the babies to him, not the mother. So we have a lot to work on. But the thing that I think as educators and people that are with these kids, probably a lot more than their parents are, is to give them hope, offer them hope. I keep thinking that God said, that's a different in my life. Someone mentored me and gave me hope. And so if I could challenge you, I want to be really honest with you. I'm working on the churches, and a lot of them will nurture these girls. That a lot of them, I did have one church tell me, well, we've got the city mission for that. Well, that's not what the city mission is for. I need for women to be willing to mentor these young ladies once they get in treatment. At Lily's Place, there'll be more opportunity for that. But for you, if you could just offer these children some hope, just because they come from families that aren't like ours, doesn't mean that they're not worth something and have value. And if we just say, give him some drugs, and he'll calm down, and then he'll sit in his seat, and he won't cause us any trouble. There's a reason he's causing trouble. It's because he lives in chaos every day. My sister's a teacher in the Wayne County school system, and she went out on the playground. She'll kill me for telling you this. She went out on the playground, and these little boys were playing, and they were running around, and they were hiding, and one was acting like he had a gun, and he was walking around. She said, what are you doing? We're playing meth lab bust. Oh. Yes. And she got this little boy to come over, and he's teaching everybody about what a meth lab bust is like. And lo and behold, he had one at his house. And so we laugh because you don't want to cry, but that's what these children are learning. They're learning, instead of their moms teaching them and helping them with their math and with their reading, they're learning about meth lab bust. And so I do think we are in for the battle of our lives for our children in West Virginia. We are #1 in drug abuse. And we send our babies umbilical cords to be tested because they've learned how to have a negative urine drug screen, the moms have. I've heard it all. I am the most educated undrugged person to know about drugs, that you, and they're very honest with me, and I appreciate that, but I don't let the nurses be judgmental of them. And so they're honest with us, and we try to help them. I talked to U.S. Attorney Booth Goodwin. Have you heard of the Equal Opportunity Destroyer video? They made that, the Huntington Police Department and the U.S. Attorney Goodwin made this video. And I think it should be shown in every high school. I got permission to use it and reproduce it, and I had a copy made for you all and went off and forgot it, but I'll give it to Jill to give to you.
Already done.
This, things like that.
We did that. We've already done
You've
that.
already done that, so you're ahead. To me, for young people, that shows consequences, very much shows consequences, and that, no, it's not just about you. Most of them say, well, it doesn't affect anybody else, it only affects me, but it doesn't. And if you want to, if you like know how to do YouTube, you can go on YouTube and just Google it, and it's called Equal Opportunity Destroyer. And I use that in education with our parents because they come in stoned every day, just about. There's at least a couple come in stoned every day. So I make them watch that. I make them watch some pretty graphic videos. And, you know, I think we're making a difference, but we're just making a dent. Because I feel like once we open Lily's place up, we'll be able to take babies from Logan and Williamson and Louisa, Kentucky, they call us all the time. They have a huge problem down that way. And I know that's just across, you know, the river from Fort Gay, so that affects us too. But I would challenge you to when that little boy comes into that kindergarten class and you think, uh-oh, this is going to be a rough year. It's going to be. But you know what? It's not going to be one little boy coming into your kindergarten classes. I have 18 little boys and girls to be in my unit today. And in 5 years, they're going to be bursting on the scene. And Lincoln County, I have babies from Lincoln County all the time. So they are going to be coming into your kindergarten class, and you've got to decide. Am I going to say, give him some Adderall and calm him down? Or am I going to give him some hope that he has value? I mean, in my mind, I can think of lots of things you can do to mentor these children. But you know better than me how to do that. And I think it starts with educating your teachers that we've got to value these children. They can't be the disruptive kid from over in Smith Holler or something. We've got to value him as Johnny. And he's 5 years old, and he has his whole life in front of him, and I'm the person responsible to make sure that he has hope. And I wanted to be honest with you. It's a problem for all of us, not just Lincoln County, not just Wayne County, not just Cabell County, but for all of us. And if we turn our backs on these children, shame on us. If we get them all on drugs, then we can't blame it when 20 years from now, their kids at 5 years old come into Lincoln County and say, here's Johnny, his family are addicts because Johnny didn't have any hope. We were more concerned with the kids who had the good families to make sure they got a good education. We've got to take care of our children, and it means those children too. And I think that's about all I have.
That's quite a bit, Ms. Murray. Well, you know, these are things that we've talked about before, obviously, what impact. I think, although most of this is horrendous and has the downside, a glimmer of hope there that if these youngsters are treated properly, that they can go ahead and lead normal lives. Because that's been something we've discussed in various, with certain students and all. And I know Mr. Curry has made the comment many times about, you know, I guess he hears it from Jill, of the number of kids that are, you know, born addicted, which is just, I mean, it makes you just cringe thinking about it, much less having to endure it. But at least there's some hope there that those that are treated properly can overcome that and lead normal lives.
Right, and you know, they're right now, people are starting to do lots of studies on these children, so probably 10 years down the road, we'll have a lot more information, but we can't wait 10 years. We've got to offer them every opportunity that we can. You know, unfortunately, CPS is overwhelmed. There aren't enough foster families. So if somebody just has one good quality, in all of the mess that they're in. They usually take that baby home. And I will tell you, it is a bad life. It is a terrible life. Just hearing my sister tell me stories of what little kids tell her. But you know what? When little kids tell you a story that my mom was passed out last night and I didn't have dinner, it's your responsibility to make sure somebody knows that and not just pat him on the head and say, that's bad. Make sure somebody knows that. You know, these little children, this is their life. That's all they know. They love their mommy and daddy, but it's not always what's best for them until their mommy and daddy get straightened out.
We do have Ms. Murray and Dr. Loudon scheduled in January to come to speak to two groups of our teachers.
Yeah, we're excited, and he will be with me then.
Well, we realize this is a societal problem, but, you know, obviously in West Virginia, we have for whatever reason, our numbers are greater than most places, particularly for.
And I blame a lot of that on this pipeline that comes from Detroit, because usually half the babies in our unit, their fathers are from Detroit, so they're stopping by to sell their drugs. I had one dad tell me that he can come, they put him on a bus in Detroit, and they give him drugs, and they give him a cell phone that he can't call them, but they'll call him. When he gets to the bus station in Huntington or in Ashland, sometimes I go to Ashland, someone comes to them, gives them enough money to go to a local dive hotel and stay, and he said, if I can come to Ashland or Huntington, I can get rid of all my drugs in about 24 hours. Anywhere else, it takes up to a week. So they are targeting us, and I think the Huntington Police Department, I will say, I think they're doing a very good job. They really have cracked down, and the Ashland Police Department over there, they've really cracked down, but it's overwhelming. I mean, you know, we've already got all these addicted people. Just cutting out the Detroit people, they're gonna find their drugs somewhere. So we've gotta take care. You know, my thing is, it's bad, but I gotta take care of the babies. Y'all gotta take care of the kids. So, but thank you for having me, I appreciate
Does any
it.
members of the board have anything, any comments?
I just want to say I think that's wonderful, and I'm so pleased because I was getting ready to ask if she could talk to our teachers, especially the ones that are.
Kindergarten, I know we're
Kindergarten.
talking to the kindergarten
And the preschool.
teacher and the preschool in
That's
January.
right.
So we're excited about that.
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me.